Hey, and welcome to the highlights of episode number 189 with Dr. Daniel Goleman. Now, some of my favorite parts of this episode were when he teaches us how meditation can change your mind, brain, and body, why meditation is imperative for stress reduction, the additions you need to add to your meditation practice to take it to the next level. Plus, I also loved the powerful meditation he takes us through and the 3 tips that he got from the Dalai Lama. But there is so much more inspiration and wisdom that you get in the full episode. So, to listen to the full podcast and get all the info in the show notes, head on over to melissaambrosini.com/189 right now. Welcome, Daniel. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Now, can you take us back? Tell us your story and how you got to where you are today doing the work that you now do. Like, how did this all unfold for you?
I got interested in meditation when I was an undergraduate. I was kind of jittery and nervous, and I heard that someone was teaching meditation. I thought, well, maybe that'll help calm me down. And so I got, then it was a mantra, and it did calm me down. In fact, I meditated twice a day, morning and then evening. Evening, I always fell asleep. So it really calmed me down. Then when I was in graduate school, I got a traveling fellowship that allowed me to go to India and meet the heavy-duty meditators, the real professionals. And these are yogis and nuns and monks and so on. And I spent about a year there. I was with Ram Dass's guru, Neem Karoli Baba, for quite a while. And he was quite extraordinary. And I met some other really amazing beings. One was a very humble Lama named Kunu Rinpoche, who lived in a very simple, concrete, small room with a wooden bed. And people would pop in to see him all hours of day or night. He was always happy to see whomever showed up. And then I found out later he was the Dalai Lama's main teacher on compassion. He was really highly venerated, but he was very low-key about it. So when I went back to graduate school, that was at Harvard, I told them meditation really does something that we should pay attention to. It's a psychoactive substance, if you will. And I want to do my dissertation on it. And they thought that was the stupidest idea they'd ever heard. This was much too early. But my best friend in graduate school, Richard Davidson, and I managed to do research on meditation then. And at that point, we could only find 2 or 3 articles in the scientific literature to cite. Now, when we've come back and revisited, we wrote a book called Science of Meditation in the Commonwealth countries. There are now more than 6,000 peer-reviewed articles, scientific studies of meditation. We looked at the very, very best. Over the years, since my being in India, I kind of graduated to Vipassana, which is the origins of what's called mindfulness in a popular form. And then now I do a kind of Tibetan version of that, which is a cousin of it called Dzogchen. And the research literature that we found actually maps that journey. There's lots of research on mindfulness, more than 1,000 studies a year. Imagine that now. There are lots on insight meditation practice, which is the more intensive meditation type that mindfulness emerges from. And Davidson was able to fly about 14 professionals. These are heavy-duty yogis who are in the Dzogchen tradition. He brought them to his lab one by one and did brain scans and so on. These are people who have done 12,000 to 62,000 lifetime hours of meditation. Quite a big number. And he found that the brains are different in quite amazing ways. So I would say that my journey has also tracked the scientific study of meditation.
And so you've obviously tried lots of different types of meditation. What have you found has been the most profound for you?
Well, that's exactly right. In fact, the first book, which I wrote while in India, which I hope is very obscure because I'm kind of embarrassed about it now, but it mapped many different kinds of meditation, trying to compare and contrast to see where the commonalities were. So I was really looking around. I was kind of on a shopping tour, if you will, when I was in India. I spent a total of 2 years. I went back on a postdoc. And at first, I was doing what are probably seen as yoga related meditations, mantra meditations in a Hindu tradition. And then I segued to a Buddhist practice. In fact, it was Nimkoli Baba, who was a Hanuman Bhakta, which is a Hindu form, who encouraged me to go to Bodh and study what's called Vipassana or mindfulness, insight meditation. So that was the big segue. But I also looked at Sufi practices, I looked at Christian practices, Jewish meditation, because every major spiritual tradition turns out to have at its core what you could call a meditation practice, even though they're not always well known.
Mm. And you say that meditation can literally change your mind and brain and your body. How so?
Well, this comes from a survey of the excellent articles that we were able to find on meditation, and the very best do things like control for subjectivity. If you're very positive about meditation and people ask, did it help you? You're going to find all kinds of ways in which it helped you. But if you're positive about some other thing, you're going to find all kinds of ways that helped you. So what we like biological and neural brain indicators. We found, for example, that if you're a long-term practitioner, that's 1,000 to 10,000 hours over a course of a lifetime. If you do one day of meditation, it down-regulates, it quiets the genes that make for inflammation throughout the body. That was quite unexpected, and it's a very powerful finding. In fact, people in genetic science were very skeptical. They said, well, there's no way that a mental practice could control the genetic level, but it seems to. It doesn't change what genes you have, but how they operate. And then there's a lot of neural changes. One of them has to do with the goal of every spiritual tradition, which is almost universally ignored by scientists in the West, and that is to lessen attachment to self. Every spiritual tradition says that's good, but it's almost never studied in the West. But when it has been studied, it seems to correlate with a lessening of connectivity to the part of the brain which actually is fixated on I, me, mine, all those preoccupations with ourself. Also, he was able to look at the brain of the most advanced meditator, the person who's at 62,000 hours, before and after he went off on a 4-year retreat. And he found that his brain was literally younger than other brains of people his chronological age. That seems to be another benefit of meditation.
And let's talk about stress because, oh my goodness, the world that we live in now, there's so many stresses around us. So, how imperative is some form of meditation practice today?
Given how stressful life is today, I think all of us need a practice that can help us stay calm or calm down, or at least get over the stresses that we've accumulated during the day. And it can vary from person to person what that practice is, but meditation has been found to calm the part of the brain that responds most actively to stress, which is called the amygdala. It's the brain's radar for something's wrong here. And it also activates feelings of anxiety, feelings of worry. So, because meditation calms the amygdala, it means that we react less often to triggers. When we do react, it's less strong. And if we do react, we recover more quickly. All of those are signs that the amygdala is quieting down. And they've all been found independently by researchers to be benefits of meditation.
But you say that short daily doses will not get you the highest level of lasting positive changes, even if you continue it for years, without specific additions. Now, what are these specific additions that you speak about?
Well, there are two things generally that can help you get more benefit from meditation. One is doing intensive retreat. And by that, I mean going off somewhere where there's some good instruction and you don't have to get on email, you don't have to answer the phone, you don't have to get right back to someone's message. You can put all that aside and just focus on yourself. This is a luxury today to take this kind of time. But if you get deeply into meditation practice day after day after day, then you accrue a lot more hours of practice, which helps in any area of expertise. And you also can go more deeply into the meditation itself. The other thing that can help is advice from a teacher who can say, oh, well, you can report what I'm doing, what I'm experiencing. And if the teacher is very seasoned, he or she can tell you, well, good, now try this, or try that, or try that. And that's called deliberate or smart practice. You've heard the 10,000 hour rule of thumb that gets you to, Olympic level in any sport and so on. Actually, that's not true. It's a gradient, and it differs for different areas of expertise. What we found with meditation is there's no upper limit. The more people are able to do it over their lifetime, and even if you do 20 minutes twice a day, that's 40 minutes a day, and in a week it's 280 minutes, and in a month and so on, it adds up. And so you get a benefit that builds and builds and builds no matter what your basic practice is.
But what about for someone who's listening and they have never tried any type of meditation? Like the science is out there. Your book is a beautiful example of that, Altered Traits. There's so much information out there now on the benefits of meditation. Like, unless you've been living under a rock, we all know that it's really great for us on so many levels, physically, emotionally, spiritually. But for someone listening who has never tried any type of meditation, what's a great place for them to start?
There are three ways I'd recommend. One is there are lots of very good apps. I don't have anything to do with any of them, but Headspace is a good one. 10% Happier is excellent. There are many, many. Anybody can download those. The second is to look for a teacher where you live. There are meditation teachers in most every city globally now. And the third is I could show you right now if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I'll show you a very simple meditation, but it's one that the research shows can be very powerful. This is a meditation on the breath. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, put your phone aside, ignore it, and sit up in a dignified, upright posture, not tense, but not too relaxed. And the idea is to stay alert. You can close your eyes and just bring your attention to your breath. Be aware of every in-breath and then every out-breath. And then the next breath. Be attentive to the whole breath. It might help to notice the sensation of the breath coming and going through your nostrils, or rising and falling of your tummy, however you can do it. But just stay with your breath. Be fully aware of the inhalation, the full exhalation. When your mind wanders, and you notice it wandered, bring it back to your breath. Start with the next breath. Stay with it. So it might help, for example, to count. Maybe 1 on the in-breath, 2 on the out-breath, 3 on the in-breath. You can go up to 10 and then start over. Just whatever will help you stay with the breath. Now you can open your eyes, but that's the basic instruction for the most simple, universal kind of meditation.
And everybody could do that. Every single person, even children. And it's a beautiful thing to teach children from a really young age. It's so important.
I'm glad you mentioned kids, because I think kids today need this more than ever. The reason is that they've grown up without knowing a time that you couldn't lose yourself in a little picture on a little device, a phone. And our phones are our best friends and our worst enemies in terms of attention, because they're full of distractions. And kids today are growing up more distracted than ever by tech. And I think it's a very important reason that we ought to consider teaching these attentional skills to kids, because one of the first benefits is that your attention sharpens, your concentration gets better. And in an era when the technology is de-skilling kids in attention, I can think of nothing better than to teach them this very, very basic exercise in paying attention.